Greetings! I greet you all on this MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. I'm grateful for this man and for his legacy. He spoke truth to power, stood up for people who couldn't stand up for himself. And I always feel a special connection to him because his I Have a Dream speech was on August 28th, which is my birthday, but it was on August 28th, 1963, which is my born day. So I'm excited that that energy and that passion was in the air on my day of stepping onto this planet. And so I'm grateful for him and for his legacy. And may we all continue to choose nonviolence and love. And I also hope that you're all safe and warm on this winter weather warning weekend. Let's just breathe in and out. Now, our January theme is New Beginnings, and my talk title today is Endings, the Door to New Beginnings. And my talk text for our time together today is Luke 23:42. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. So let's talk about new beginnings. In the last 3 years for me has been a great time of new beginnings. I moved to a new state, a new home, a new spiritual center, a new position of ministry, a new weather, snow and fall and humidity, and a new job. 4 days ago or whatever, on the 11th of January was my 1 year anniversary at Baptist. I survived, and that's a whole different story. But yes, my 1 year anniversary. And I'm grateful for every new beginning, but it would be just as accurate to say that I'm grateful for every ending. Here's a quote from the philosopher Seneca. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Now, I want to get right into our text today. And so the text that I use for my talk text is from the crucifixion narrative. That narrative being presented in Luke from the sacred text of Christianity. And so the narrative is that Master Teacher Jesus is being crucified between two other criminals, and he's being crucified as a criminal. And in this scenario, the crowd is mocking him. They're like, you could save yourself, but you can't you could save other people, but you can't save yourself. And the Roman soldiers are mocking him like, if you're the Messiah, come on down. And then one of the criminals being executed, it's like, dude, if you are the Messiah, get yourself down and us. But the other criminal there rebukes the first criminal and proclaims, we are getting the punishment we deserve. But this man, referring to Master Teacher Jesus, is innocent. And then he says, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And I'm like, huh? You think Jesus is getting ready to come into a kingdom when he's getting executed like you? Dude, this is not what triumph looks like. But look at the response of Master Teacher Jesus. Truly, I tell you today, you will be with me in paradise. It's like two crazy men at this point having a conversation. But what Master Teacher Jesus could have said was like, really? Dude, today? Sorry, you should have caught me on the feeding of the 5,000. Or when I healed the man with the withered hand. Or when I healed the lame man outside the pool. Or when I healed the dude, his friends dropped him through the roof. Or, when I healed the woman with the issue of blood. Or when I had the healing and freeing conversation with the woman at the well. It's too late. Catch me next time. But no, he says, truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. And these two characters, these two men, are presenting some very powerful, but also simple lessons that we can use living today. 3 simple lessons from this narrative: that endings are the doors to new beginnings. It's never too late to end your story. Louis L'Amour says there will come a time when you believe everything is finished, and that will be the beginning. That man that was being crucified with Jesus as a criminal of some sort, and they say a thief, but we don't execute thieves in this country. You got to really do something to be publicly executed. The Romans were making an example of these people. And so whatever his narrative was, I'm a big bad criminal, or I'm a rebel, or, I had a bad upbringing. I grew up on the wrong side of town in Jerusalem, and, I was poor, or my family hated me, or girls hated me, or boys hated me, and I had it rough, or, this Roman government trying to hold me down. So whatever happened, whatever choices he made got him in this position. And he could have held on to that narrative till the end. But there was an ending to that narrative. And he ended that narrative when he said to Jesus, Namaste. Basically, the Christ in me. I recognize the Christ in you at this moment, and I want to be one with that. He let go of the narrative, and it was not too late. Anytime we can drop the narrative, well, I've been diagnosed with this, or my family's like this, or, this is the case, or where I grew up, this was the or, right now I'm the Okay, you can drop that narrative at any time and let the Christ consciousness within. You and I can drop those narratives anytime and let that Christ consciousness within well up, and then see the Christ in the people in that narrative, or in the back of our mind in that narrative, and then move forward. Speak the Namaste. The Christ in me sees the Christ in you. I think the second lesson is the power of Christ consciousness and the healing and redemptive power of forgiveness. Because what happened that would make this man even think that something different was going on with Jesus at this time? So you will be today, or truly I say to you today, you will be with me in paradise, is the second of the 7 last words, which is the narrative from the crucifixion. But the first word is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. Now, how many of you, Gail can tell you a story of how many people she had to beat up because her little sister had a big mouth. She'd get herself in trouble. She'd come running to Gail, and Jill is spindly, and Gail's always been kind of well built, so she had to beat those people up. Right? You go running to your daddy. My mom had a sister that was kind of the same way. If they could make it home to her, she would come out and beat up whoever. So you get that. You could have been like, now, Dad, I want you to damn all of them and look what they're doing to me and listen to my narrative. But instead, while there's horrible, horrible things happening, and if you saw the Passion of the Christ, some horrible, horrible stuff happened beforehand, he is still, Master Teacher Jesus is showing us that there is no spot where God is not. Now I'm getting ahead to my next point, but it's the truth. God is in the midst of the ugly. God is in the midst of the hurt. God is in the midst of the rejection. God is in the midst of the rape and the assault. And we can either forgive and see, invite God into that presence, Father, call upon that relationship, that divine wisdom, and let go. And I believe that when this criminal saw Master Teacher Jesus speaking forgiveness, that in that moment, he was able to let go of his, I'm the victim and look what happened to me. And he was able to let that go. And that ending brought a new beginning. And then the third of the lessons from this narrative is the presence of the divine. There is no spot where God is not. God is in the endings. We want to see God in the new thing. I see God's over there. Yeah, we'll see over at this new thing. No, God is right here in the place where you're unhappy, in the place where you and I could be depressed, in the place where we can be anxious, in the place where we're being rejected, in the place where we're being harmed, in the place where we're scared. And God is in this space. And if we can follow the example of that criminal, that on Jesus's worst day, still see that Christ's presence, connect to it, allow it within and embody it, that we can end those things that are crucifying us, those things that bring us down, those things that harm and hurt us. We can end those things at any time when we have the divine eye to see the divine Christ presence in harmful situations, in hurtful situations, in diagnosis, in whatever it is. We can follow the example of this man who, in Jesus forgiving, and I like the other words that are there, taking care of his mother. saying, I thirst. The human part of him was like, ugh. And even the part of him that cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Not God, God, but my God. I'm still holding on to you. I still know that we are one. I know. And then realizing it's done. And even though this is not the best scenario, I still trust you enough that I'm going to release the true me, my spirit, into your hands. And this great narrative teaches us never too late to let go of the narrative. That the power of Christ's consciousness in forgiving, healing, and redemptive, and that the presence of the divine is everywhere. Endings can be hurtful. Sometimes it's easier to be safe in your victimhood and, this is just how it is. But Lao Tzu, the philosopher, says new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. And if we can see and invite the divine presence into our painful ending, we have a new beginning. I end with this great quote by Jonathan Lockwood. Celebrate endings, for they precede new beginnings. Blessings, my love to you. Namaste.